right, thank you for joining me in this video. And today I do want to discuss the debate that just happened between Jay Dyer, Daniel from Muslim Skeptic, and Sam Shamoun. And I can't remember the other Muslim representative that was a part of this debate, but I think he was standing in or took the place of Jake, the Muslim metaphysician. I think he took the place there. I think Jake was supposed to debate alongside Daniel against Jay Dyer and Sam, but for whatever reason he didn't debate, and so this other individual took part, and I can't remember that individual's name, but nonetheless it was a debate, a 202 debate that took place on the IRL podcast Fresh and Fit. I probably don't really need to go into what Fresh and Fit is. I'm sure many of you know what Fresh and Fit is. It's hosted by Myron and his partner. I forget his partner's name, but his name is Fresh. Just put it that way. But anyway, they did or is it Fit? I get confused. I can't remember. But anyway, they did a debate on that channel. And so I've thought it to be a very good debate. Obviously, when you get Sam Shamoun, Jay Dyer, and a couple of Muslims in the same room together, obviously they're fireworks. And certainly I do have a clip of some fireworks that took place in this debate, but we'll get that in a minute. This video is not meant to be some long, exaggerated summary of the debate. I just quickly wanted to give a sort of a reference, some thoughts of what I thought were some of my favorite parts of the debate. And one of my favorite parts of the debate was when they debated the Trinity and Tawhid. If you didn't know, if you haven't watched it, they broke the debate down into like segmented time rounds for several debate topics. So it wasn't just one centralized topic, it was several debate topics. And so one of the topics was Trinity versus Tawhid. And so I found this portion of the debate to be very helpful and very satisfying, because I found that some of the argumentation that Jay Dyer and Sam Shamoun handed out was very, very helpful in my ability to argue for the Trinity. One thing I would like to say that before I go into appreciating and giving why I appreciated the argumentation from Jay Dyer and Sam is that even though we disagree, right? Like obviously Sam is a Catholic, Jay is the Eastern Orthodox guy. So even if I disagree with them in the vast majority of their theology, there are some portions of their theology I do agree with. Like we all embrace the Trinity, right? We all embrace the Trinity. Obviously, there was a chasm between Eastern Orthodox and the Catholic Church. It has to do with the filioque. Even though there is some disagreement there, foundationally, I think we all can embrace certain argumentations that are associated with it and use these argumentations to benefit us and use when we're interacting with those who may disagree with the Trinity. All that said, I did appreciate this portion of the debate, the Tawhid versus the Trinity. And the reason I did is because a lot of times Muslims tend to try to say, well, the Trinity is problematic because does Jesus have one mind or did he have two minds? And they like to argue that it was more, it's a illogical contradiction, to say it simply, right? But I think that the way Sam Shamoun and Jay Dyer argued was not, they didn't go into trying to prove that it was illogical. They just pointed out the fact that, yeah, there are basically some things that are difficult to understand, but this is not an issue that the Quran doesn't deal with too. This is not an issue that Muslims have to tackle with too, because many times within the Quran, Allah is inspired to have physical attributes, right? There's these physical attributes, and that is problematic for Muslims, right? That's problematic for Allah, because according to the Quran, you know, Allah is immaterial, right? Allah doesn't have physical attributes. Allah doesn't have these type of things, right? This is not a good description of what Allah is. He is spirit. He's not physical, right? He doesn't have physical bones and body, but yet the Quran teaches that he has a hand, he has a shin, right? These are different attributes that Allah has. And so what Jay Dyer and Sam Shamoun attempted to point out was that, hey, you need to deal with this too. While you're jumping all over to us, you're being inconsistent with your own doctrine. Your own doctrine teaches some issues. So you deal with your doctrine. If you're not going to treat your doctrine consistently, how can we even respect your treatment of the doctrine of the Trinity if you can't deal with your stuff consistently? So I really did appreciate the fact that Sam Shamoun and Jay Dyer called that out, right? Called them out on their inconsistency inconsistencies as well. And so that was one portion of the debate that I did appreciate. Another portion of the debate was more controversial, and this is where I'm going to show you some footage of the more controversial part of the debate. They began to talk about child marriage, right? This is a big thing right now. This has been a huge thing for some time, but it seems within the last year, this has sort of hit a sort of polarizing aspect, right? Muhammad, for since the beginning of all of this, right, has always been called certain terms, certain words to sort of describe his desire for little kids, right, for little girls, right, and so this idea of child marriage has become a thing in the sense it's become a more involved subject to discuss, right? And so recently, obviously, many people, David Wood, Mike Jones from Inspired Philosophy, AP, Apostate Prophet, like all these guys who has major, extremely large YouTube channels have been calling Muslims out for Muhammad's relationship with Aisha. I think it's Aisha. I pronounce her name wrong. Aisha, who was I think 9 years old when he consummated his marriage with her, and so obviously that causes Muslims to respond too, right? And so in their response, they have went out their way to say, no, well, it teaches within the Talmud, it teaches within different things with Christian doctrine that because Protestants have to deal with this argumentation as well, because obviously if you're Protestant, you argue with the same thing. Why did Muhammad have intimacy with a 9-year-old, right? And the response Muslims typically would say, well, didn't the Bible also condone these things? Joseph married Mary at an older age, and Mary was younger, and don't the Talmud teach that one can marry a 12-year-old? Like, these are some of the argumentations that they would make. So here's the clip of said interaction here. And so I did want to play this and sort of allow them to sort of deal with this portion of the interaction here.
Team Islam here. We're going to give you guys 5 minutes.
One?
No, we got one more round. 5 minutes for 5 minutes that you guys got. So this is going to be Team Islam now. It's going to be on you guys. 5 minutes.
Once you notice, Christian audience, that your champions here did not mention child marriage. Are they dodging that issue? Why didn't Jay or Sam mention child marriage? I thought that Islam promotes pedophilia. You know why they didn't address child marriage? Because they know that canon law in the Catholic Church and Thomas Aquinas endorse child marriage and marriage at age 12 years old. Is that pedophilia? Sam, why don't you answer that question? How about you, Jay? You want to condemn the church for endorsing pedophilia? And then he makes a big deal about how, the Old Testament, you take the captives for marriage, as if that's any different. You're taking captives. It's not a consensual relationship, Sam. Like, who are you trying to fool? The Bible says, take these women and then shave their heads and then marry them. It's not giving humiliate them. It's not giving them an option. So I'm not condemning. Notice, get the logic right, Sam and Jay. I'm not condemning the Bible for slavery. I believe that Islam also endorses slavery. Islam also endorses war, but we don't go as far as Jesus in commanding killing babies like he does in Deuteronomy and Numbers. I don't condemn Christianity or the Bible or Catholicism for this minor marriage, marrying girls as young as 9, 10, 11. I don't condemn that because I think that there's nothing wrong with that. But I want your audience to know that you don't find anything wrong with that. You don't find anything wrong with a 12-year-old getting married, because that's what the Catholic Church, that's their morality. And that's what this section of the debate is about. It's about morality. So I'm giving it to you, Judge, left. So we want to hear you condemn child marriage. I didn't, and to go back to what Jay said, I never said anything about continuity. I never said that, what we find in the Old Testament is continuous in terms of morality with the Quran. I never claimed this. You just pulled this out of your back pocket, Jay. We were not talking about rituals. We were talking about practice practices of war. The thing is that the Bible says to genocide little babies, to leave nothing that breathes alive. The Quran never says this. Yes, the Quran commands war. There is the story of Moses going to battle. Yeah, that exists, but there's no genocide that is mentioned because the Quran is correcting the false narratives that are found in the Old Testament, all of the additions that we find in all the different variations of the Bible that we've discussed in the previous section. So that's the difference. And yes, please, everyone is waiting. Stop dodging the issue. Condemn child marriage. Tell us that the Catholic Church is really a pedophilia organization over the centuries because canon law, not the Talmud. We're not talking about the Talmud. We're talking about canon law says that 12 years old is the age of marriage, acceptable age of marriage. So condemn that. Please, we're waiting. Jay and Sam. Go ahead, Ijaz.
Yeah, I mean, they won't
seconds.
condemn that because they accept it, historically at least. Let's just be clear here. We're not saying that this is hypocritical, but you're not consistent. Who cares about rituals and priests? When it comes down to the meat and the matter, you guys approve child marriage. Jesus approved it. The Pharisees approved it. And this is what you believe. I really want Sam to speak on whether or not a person can abuse their wife, whether a person can take donation money, spend it incorrectly, maybe spend it on young girls. Wouldn't be surprised to find you on Epstein's list, to be honest. So I just really want Sam to ask and answer the question, do you accept, Sam, do you accept child marriage, yes or no? And based on what, we would like to know.
All right, so there was certain portions that I cut out of this particular portion of the debate because I felt that it was really filthy and it was a real low blow, bringing up some of the things of Sam's personal life. But like we know that Sam has a way of communicating, and I don't appreciate the way Sam communicates. I think that's pretty clear. I think I've said that before, that I wish Sam would dial it down. Sam is a very intelligent person. He's a very smart person, and he has a great debatability. He's a great debater, right? Whether you hate Sam or you like Sam. Sam is a very good debater, and so I just wish he would dial it back, because what happens is that if Sam doesn't dial it back and he goes in with that energy, you have to know that they're going to bring the same energy. You know, people are not going to shy away from Sam. Though there are a lot of people that do shy away from Sam, a lot of people don't shy away from Sam, and they're going to meet Sam right at the energy that he is at. And so this is not me, you know, talking bad about Sam. This is just the truth of the matter, is that Sam has to begin to draw back his commentary. There's a way to say certain things that are going to be able to communicate the same thing, that doesn't layer over extreme levels of insult, so to speak, right? And so, and this is not me saying like some of the things are not justified, like some things that are said about Muhammad are justified, right? Because that's what he is. But nonetheless, there's a way of communicating the very same thing in a way that is still appreciative with your interlocutors, right? Because you want to encourage conversation. You don't want the conversation to detour off into personal insults, ad hominem attacks, right? You want to be able to keep it professional and respectful, right? When you're engaging on these debates, right? And so I cut out that portion of this conversation because that's not what I'm interested in. I'm more interested in the dialogue and the interaction with child marriage itself. And so we're going to hear the response from Sam and Jay Dyer as it concerns the Muslims, the Muslim team or the Islam team's concerns about Christian child marriage.
Does Jesus condemn it? Does Jay condemn it? Who condemns it?
All right, that's
Why
time.
does it
That's
take?
time. That's time.
Sorry,
That's
can't
time.
interrupt.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 seconds. 5 seconds. He took it back 5 seconds.
Okay.
Let me just reclaim the 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But
We're gonna.
don't demand something from us that you yourself aren't consistent with.
Okay, we're gonna add 10 seconds to the clock for Team Christianity for that. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes on the clock. This is gonna be the beginning of round 3. Okay, so this is gonna be the final round on Bible verse Quran, morality, human morality. So I'll put 5 minutes on the clock. What I'll do is I don't want to interrupt this. So what we'll do is we'll read the chats after they complete this round, and then before they do the fire round where they open dialogue, then we'll do the chats. Sorry, guys, I don't want to interrupt it. You know what I mean? The flow and everything else like that. My job here is to moderate, give you guys the best show. Don't want to interrupt it with super chats right now. I'll do it after we finish this, and then we'll do the final thing. So round 3, 5, 10 on the clock for Team Christianity. I know, Sam, you got a lot to say, so go ahead.
No, but Jay, do you want to say something real quick?
Yeah, briefly. So I was referring to the topic that Daniel and I debated and the way he's using these texts here in this debate. Both of those situations show that Daniel only uses the Old Testament when it suits his purposes, and he's not consistent with it. In that debate, he argued that Islam has more continuity with the Old Testament because of, well, there's some loose similarities between imams and places where you go and pray in a mosque or whatever. That has nothing to do with the continuity that the argument in that debate was about. Here he's using it as another way to say, these are the texts in the Old Testament that are valid that teach this. So my point is that he's arbitrary and he has a double standard, and that's an internal critique, which neither of them have never understood. I've made this point in every debate we have. They don't know what an internal critique is. They think that it means that you hold to your position. That's not what an internal critique is. It's just showing that you have a double standard. I'll let it go to you, Sam.
Yeah. Now, you kept saying that, well, we condemn child marriage. Absolutely. And here, Ezekiel 16, verses 6 to 8, 1 Corinthians 7, chapter 7, verse 36, the Didache in chapter 2, as well as the Talmud. The reason why they say 12, if you read in context, and I'm going to challenge Daniel, give me the full quotation of Thomas Aquinas, unedited, because you're like your prophet, you like to edit and quote out of context. They're placing it at 12 because that's when they assume that a woman will reach puberty. And even then they say she has to wait a little time beyond 12. For example, here in the Talmud says not only 12, but sometime after that when her breasts are formed, because they took that as indication that she's now pubescent and that she's now knowledgeable enough to choose marriage or reject marriage. So even by their standards, you condemn Muhammad to hell, because according to that very standard, Muhammad mounted a 9-year-old. He was 54. So Christian and Jewish sources would condemn him as a pedophile who desired a 9-year-old, and he mounted her. And then your Quran in 65 verse 4 doesn't even have the age of 12 as the limit. So yes, I condemn it, which is why I condemn your prophet. And as far
So the child marriage refutation, I thought was very solid. I thought that was very good. One thing we need to take consideration when we're dealing with the child marriage controversy or all of that is that these things took place at a certain amount of time, right? These things took place a long time ago, to say the least, right? And so when we're interacting with the subject matter, and I made this argumentation several days ago about the concerns of child marriage, right? Muslims like to do that, right? And when we make these argumentations, I do believe that it's good to not only just point out the maturity, the time of puberty, all that, but also I would say the maturity, the mental maturity, the naiveness is gone, right? The ability to be naive and be tricked. I also would say that someone marries someone who is equally yoked. I think equally yoked not only means spiritually, but also maturity, right? The same maturity level, right? So it's like, would I be against a 16-year-old marrying a 16-year-old? Not necessarily. I would probably be okay with a 16-year-old marrying a 16-year-old. But would I be against a 50-year-old marrying a 16-year-old? Yeah, I would have a big problem with that. I think that's a problem. And I think that's like disgusting, to be quite honest with you. And so I do think that's a problem. I do think that's an issue. And so I understand that everything is to be put in their historical context, right? But there are some things that just simply don't belong in any historical context. And Muhammad being 54 years old, being intimate with a 9-year-old, that is absolutely disgusting. That is a problem, and that is in no way should be accepted in any form of history, right? And so all that said, I did think the debate went pretty solid. It went good. I think Jay Dyer and Sam overall performed very well. And I thought it was a good debate. If I can give any feedback to Myron from Fresh and Fit, I would recommend having a format laid out prior to that. It seemed that though Myron, it almost seems like Myron was making up the format as he went, because he kept over and over again asking, like, what do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about this? Right? I understand formats change over time. Sometimes, sometimes you want to just get rid of certain portions of the debate. Like sometimes debaters don't want to do the closing statements. They just see no point of it. And so, yeah, things change, but it just seemed like Myron was making up the format as he went along, which I find very confusing. And so nonetheless, that's probably a minor critique on Myron's part, but nonetheless, I did think that it went well. Obviously, with these individuals on the stage, obviously you have fireworks a little bit, but all that said, I did think it went okay. And if you have yet to check it out, make sure you do. Make sure you go check it out and let me know what you think. And all that said, take care. God bless. And if you have yet to do so, make sure you subscribe to The Gospel Truth. All right, take care. God bless.